Hey, if you enjoy this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, hello everyone. Welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're taking another big figure line review. This time we're taking a look at a more smaller brand of figures, the Vinimates, which consists of Godzilla 1954, Godzilla 1962, MechaGodzilla 1974, Rodan 1993, Burning Godzilla 1995, and Godzilla 1999, or 2000. So I decided to go with the Vinimates, specifically, of course, from Dinosaur Toys, or DST for short, because I kind of taken a lot of looks at these guys, as if I didn't already with the other Bandai and Playmates videos I've been putting out. But I kind of wanted to do like one big, massive video with all six of them. So we're not going to be dividing them into like individuals or like the double packs. We're going to be doing one big cohesive review. Probably split in multiple parts, but whatever. We're going to be, just kind of going through them. We're not going to go in like any release order like waves. We're going to go individual by their own releasing, like as far as the movie order. So pretty much the order you see on screen here. So with that being said, let's jump right into the first one, which is 1954. So for Godzilla 1954, he's technically speaking, I would say, the most accurate to his original design compared to like the Vinimate stylization, which is you can see how pretty much Vinimates are. They're essentially, like I previously described them, reversed Funko Pops, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me bring in a Funko Pop for comparison. Here I have a legendary Godzilla Funko Pop from Godzilla vs. Kong, still like one of my all-time favorite pops. If not, probably tied from, actually no, I think it's my second, but whatever. He essentially has a smaller proportional body and a bigger head, while this guy has a bigger proportionally sized body with a smaller head. One that kind of looks more like the on-screen suit, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about when I say reversed. But for the head, you actually do get a very solid head sculpt. Like, I'm actually surprised of how good this looks. Especially for a Vinimates figure, which we'll see in just a sec with the next figure in line, that the head sculpts aren't necessarily the best, but for this 54, it's very well done, and is actually kind of accurate to the movie, like really accurate. Like if you were to just take the head and put it on a 6-inch figure, it practically looks seamless. Well, minus the seam we get, but for the eyes, we actually do have some nice application for what is due. We do have a bit of like overspray when it comes to like this side of the eye. This one's kind of more cleaned up, as you can see, but both of them have like the standard pupils going straight forward. It looks nice enough. We have the gray teeth that are individually painted, at least on the front. The sides are not so much. They're kind of like gray strips, so they look a bit iffy there. And we do have some nice like spray around here. We do have like a gloss, which I can't tell if that's like a paint or like a gloss intentional type deal going on here, because like you look at the armpits and then where it leads into the chest, it's kind of glossy, but then you look at like the chest brow right here, like the little bump, it's completely matte. So I'm guessing like the base of it, of the whole figure, is glossy, but they went over it with like some matte paint, or it's the reverse. Yeah, I honestly can't even tell, but still, it's either got some gloss or got some matte job to it. Either way, it still actually looks kind of cool. And you do get some like little rugged details here. Kind of going back to the head, you get like the little pointed ears. I would say the ears are maybe a bit too big. They kind of look like elf ears, as opposed to like the more Godzilla-like ears that he is normally used to having. We have like the multiple rows of fins, which starting right here, they are painted. We'll get to the fins in just a sec. And we have the overly dramatically sized arms, which, as you can see, they look like freaking clubs with spikes. Like, you get punched by this dude, you're done. You're absolutely done. But the claws are actually sculpted pretty well, nice and sharp, and actually have something for it to hold. I'm not very familiar with the Vinimates line as a whole, but I'm sure it can fit something. But going down to the legs, we get some more like that same detail we find on the body with like the little ridges and scales and stuff, especially like on the gray claws here. Which we also have gray claws down here, and we do get some, again, more like that. It kind of, again, looks like, it almost looks like a pair of pants. You know those pants that, like, really older singers like 90s, 80s, 70s would wear. Yeah, that's almost like what this looks like. Just remove the feet and have like their tiny in proportion feet, and then you have like those big baggy pants. You know those what I'm talking about? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. But you do get some nice pronounced kneecaps, and of course the bottom of the feet are actually well, the nails I should say are painted. Not so much like detail wise here, but we do get like this kind of a more stubborn shorty tail. I wouldn't expect it to be like overly long, but it's still there. It's got all that gray paint leading up to the tip of the tail, which thankfully it is all painted. And then we get to the spines, which is going to be a molded after the 54 fins, as you can see by this fin and this fin. It looks great. It's very simply put together, and I do like it a lot, having a little fly on my uh, desk here. But whatever, we do have some nice gray applications. 5 rows as opposed to the normal 3, which I think the 54 had. Did the 54 have 5 rows or 3 rows? Even I'm struggling to remember. But yeah, starting from here to about here is where it actually has like the gray in the middle. And as for that, that's actually kind of it as far as like the sheer sculpt and paint goes. It's very simplistic and very cool. I like how they keep the black and white going. But for articulation, we actually have 2 points. One at the head, which comfortably you can kind of rotate about up to there. So do keep in mind that when you do spin, these spines will rub into the back spines. And then here, which I think is disconnected out of the box if you get it individually, you do get the option to spin it like this, which is actually pretty cool. However, keep in mind, it is on a ball joint, like the peg itself is a ball joint, but it doesn't have the socket required for it to actually like spin around like one, so comfortably you're just going to get a rotation. Not a bad figure in the slightest. In fact, I would actually say this is probably like, if you actually watch my comparison of it from like way back when, I actually said that this was better than the Super 7 figure, and I still stand by that to this day. Next up, we have the 1962 Godzilla from King Kong vs. Godzilla. And as you can see, it kind of shares pretty much the exact same body mold, say except for the head, and some modified feet from the 1954 Godzilla. And that is going to be the theme going forward with all of the Godzillas in this line. All of them share some form of same attribute with the 54, because that's kind of like a base, so just keep in mind. So we're going to kind of like lightly skim through the detailing and just talk about the differences here. Well, what it's definitely different, bringing the 54 back in here, is that the overall quality of the sculpt looks a bit deeper on the 62 and just looks a bit cleaner. Probably because this was a later release, so they were able to go back and modify the details. But you can also see that they removed a toe. Of course, it's accurate to the movie, but I really like that they did it and just didn't leave the toe in there, because in the movie, starting from King Kong vs. Godzilla all the way to MechaGodzilla, he only has 3 toes, which is weird because the Raids Again Godzilla, which keep in mind these are supposed to be the same guy, only has 4 toes, like the 54. So maybe he lost a toe, just melted away. I don't know. But let's talk about the head. I take issue with the head sculpt because from a front, it looks actually kind of cool. It looks really good. I like the kind of yellow eyes and the more bigger black pupils. It looks like the movie. And I do like the paint that they chose for the mouth. And even though head on, it definitely looks derpy as hell. But the mouth sculpt actually has some mild detail. Can't really see it all too well. Zooming as best as I can in there, but we do have some nice detail. Like, we have a sculpted in tongue, which actually has some detail, and some detail on the roof of the mouth. Like, Diamond Slug didn't have to do that, but they did. But what I do take personal issue with is the head side profile. The mouth is just too elongated. It almost looks like the Godzilla from the Family Guy cutaways. Yeah, now you're probably unable to see it. And also uses the 54 molded spines. Now, while they are similar, like the design in the movie and the design on the Vinimates, they're not exactly the same. But the coloring is definitely different, having a more olive green type color with bone colored claw paint here and there. And aside from the paint differences I just showed you, that's basically the entirety of the sculpt and paint. There's really not a lot to write home about when it comes to the 62 Godzilla as far as sculpt and paint goes. So with that, that's pretty much it for the sculpt and paint. And for the articulation, we have a swivel for the head, so we can get some nice rotation here. Do keep in mind that, again, much like the 54, the spines up here, as small as they are, will bump into the spines right here, which could cause some mild paint rubbage. I'm not sure there is on mine. I mean, there's kind of a nick right there, but you still get a nice rotation, and you can get a nice rotation here at the base of the tail. So pretty much speaking, you already know what ball you're playing with when you have the 62. Next up is the last of the Showa era reps, the MechaGodzilla 74, which honestly has to be I would say, the second most accurate to its original source material from the 54th and on to this one. Which I have to say, the color on this thing really pops. Of course, it's like metallic silver, but as you can see for the head, we actually have some nice paint job for the eyes, and it's probably done well amongst all the chibi MechaGodzillas we have. And we have like the nice little slits, of course. Inside the mouth, we don't have the rockets. There's nothing really detail-wise, but we do have the individually sculpted teeth, which are really nice. And we do have the rockets, though one's slightly longer, like one of the rocket prongs are slightly longer than the other. But we do have some nice segmenting on the nose, some of the antennas. Well, specifically the red parts are painted, well, red. Red circular things as ears. We have a nice little horn up here. And then we have like the spines. Might as well talk about the spines. They are actually sculpted really well. As you can see, 3 rows of them, very accurate to the film. And we do have some like bigger ones. They are made of like a very sturdy vinyl, so no rubber extensions here. But again, they have like that very kind of mount. They almost look like nuclear power plants. I don't know, like the silhouette of them. Like they come up and then they curve in. You know what I'm saying? And then we have like the little tail thruster that acts like a rocket. Then coming on down to the body, we have some of the other detail. We have the little cannon on with the tinge, and then the various lining details, which are actually made of silver, like a darker gray. Sorry, gray to the more metallic silver, which is nice. And as you can see, we have like the kind of like, what shape is this? I think a hexagon. There we go, like a hexagon type shape. And then we have like, again, more lineage. And here we have some more on like the, I guess would be his crotch. And then here we have some more of the lineage on the like segments. So we have here and here and here. We have the little MechaGodzilla emblem, which is painted on. So at least that adds a bit more color variety. And here we have the fingers, which are actually kind of just static like this. Of course, it'd be hard to make MechaGodzilla grab something. But we do have some more like the lineage work here on the legs. So we have them here and here. Not so much on the foot. But we do have like the knee missiles and the feet missiles, which look really nice as well. Copyright info at the bottom of the feet. And yeah, again, more of the segmenting on the tail. And as you can kind of tell, that's kind of it. It's very simplistic. It's very cool. It's very awesome. And I honestly, again, think that like overall the sculpted details are probably the best. Like as far as like capturing it, or at least the second best to the 54. I will say I definitely am surprised of how well this thing turned out. But moving on right to articulation, we actually have only 1 point. That's going to be the head. And unlike the Godzillas, this guy does not have anything hindering his way. So, just like the movie, you can spin his head as much as you want. I kind of would have preferred if they also had like some arm or maybe even some waist articulation. Because, like, I mean, there's a clear cut in the sculpt right there. And, like, not a seam line, but like a lineage where you could have cut the articulation. But there's a gap in the spines. That'd been perfect for like a little waist swivel. But, I mean, then again, that would have been asking maybe a bit much. But that's okay because MechaGodzilla, again, is still actually pretty sweet. Moving on to the 90s, we have the Rodan. And as you can tell, it's going to be a really fun one because Rodan is definitely the most unique mold-wise. And as you can tell, it also has some nice color to him. But let's talk about it. So for the sculpt, we do have quite an actually really well-detailed head. We have like Rodan almost looking like he just got gassed, honestly, with the eyes and like his expression. But as you can tell, the mold itself is actually done really well. We have some nice like little folds in the skin and like little segmenting here going on. We have like the little beady eyes, which I'm going to try and focus on better. There you go. Those look rather soulless, but it looks like they had the soul ripped out of them, which is ironic because that's how Rodan eventually played himself in the movie, which he gave up his soul for Godzilla, essentially. But we do have a nice colored beak, being a much more gray color as opposed to like the orange-brown color we see in on the figure itself. And of course, we have like a bit of a yellow here on the neck and the chest. And we have like that same color we have on the beak here for the horns. And then we have like the very spikes going down to the tip of the tail where I think she's Godzilla. We have some more like the teeth here in the gums, which I have to actually commend Vinimates and Dan Select that they actually did a really good job with sculpting and painting it because we actually do have some paint variety. Like that's a slightly darker color than the rest of the mouth itself. Like that is actually really good for the tongue being a much more purple and the mouth being a much more lighter red. I can kind of also compare it to bringing in another figure that you guys are definitely accustomed to, the NECA 2014, where they kind of did a similar thing where it's like darker purple and then like a lighter pinkish red color, even though that's not red, that's more, again, pink. But that's kind of what it reminds me of. So putting Godzilla 2014 back up, because this is not a NECA review, it's a Vinimates review. So we have more again of like the individually sculpted teeth in there. Here for the stomach, we actually have some more of the like spikes here. And I will say, I kind of wish they were more painted, honestly. They're not like overly bad. I kind of just wish they were painted. It almost looks unfinished, at least on the stomach. I can't recall if they were painted or not in the movie, but I kind of would prefer if they were painted here. The legs here are also done really well. We have some nice three toes with a back spiked toe, so I'd get kicking the crotch by this guy, regardless if it was the front or back. Then again, why would I be taking him from the back? I must be doing some questionable things to Rodan if I find myself in that situation. Anyway, we have some more like the kind of orange detail with some more segmenting. It almost looks like you can actually pull it back and bend it. No, it's just the way that it's molded. And again, the coloring on the knee, the claws are actually painted really well. And then we have the wings, which are, of course, sculpted really well. I do like how they are very flexible vinyl, as opposed to just being hard, sturdy vinyl or plastic. We have some like claw paint here and here, which are of course three claws, and then we have like a bit of a yellow spray that kind of goes at the base, and then kind of goes up back to like orange, and then it's like that on the other side, except it presents itself just a bit better. Almost kind of looks like a reverse sunrise, almost like a mirrored sunrise. And then we have again more like the detail, and almost looks more like the suit when you actually have it like kind of spread out a little bit. Don't do what I'm doing. So, but as for Rodan's articulation, we have a swivel here at the head, which we can go pretty much all the way around. Nothing like too crazy. And that's going to be it. Yeah, there's no leg posability. There's no tail articulation. Like, look, there's literally nothing. So just keep in mind that when you're going to get this, it's just going to be the Rodan figure and nothing else. But overall, for Rodan, I would actually say that this is probably the best, at least colored wise, spitting. This is probably going to be like the best one, like second best, I'd say, visually speaking. Not so much accurate. I have like a weird ranking system in my head, but yeah, that's basically it for Rodan. Next up, we're going to take a look at the big burning boy himself. Not so much big, but the 1995 Burning Godzilla. Now, readjusting my camera here. In the past, I've gone on record and said that this thing was my least favorite Vinimates, and it's honestly not a good figure. In fact, I actually said it was pretty bad. Do I still stand by that statement? Honestly, yes. But I am a little less hateful towards this thing. Because at the end of the day, it's a piece of plastic, and I'm really just criticizing a big piece of plastic. a piece of plastic that comes with a price tag of $10. So yeah, but at the same time, given the quality of the other Vinimates, it just kind of makes you question what happened here. Well, why do I really just don't like this thing? Well, let's actually not go over the sculpt and paint and actually talk about why. Because I actually have covered the sculpt and paint, not in a separate review, but this review. Why? It is a repaint of the 1954 Godzilla. Now, I get it. 1954 Godzilla is essentially the base for all of the Godzillas in this line, from Godzilla 2000 and 62, and of course 1995. However, the difference between 1995 and the other two versions, 62 and 2000, were that they had retooling done to them to make them more closer to their movie counterparts. They had actual new parts. We'll talk about 2000 in just a sec, but 62 in particular had remolded legs and a new head sculpt. This guy has basically one-to-one sculpting with the original Godzilla 54. A totally different design. Now, I know, it's Vinimates. I'm not expecting them to go full movie accurate. But one thing I really just don't like is the fact that this is literally just the 1954 with burning patches. It honestly just looks like a bootleg, which is fitting because there actually is a Bandai Godzilla 54 out there that has burning patches and is a bootleg. So you can see why I'm talking about it being a bootleg. For example, like if you're going to say, oh, well, I didn't even realize. Well, let's just look at it. The head, it's the exact same with some different eye coloring, of course. We have some yellow, some orange, and a black pupil. So at least as far as like the design is, also like half of the eye is black. I'm pretty sure that was intentional to make it more, I guess, demonic. Of course it was like that in the movie, I believe, but I don't know, I could be wrong. At least it has that. However, the coloring as well is different, with this being a much more, what's the, like a tinted gray as opposed to just plain gray. This actually has bone white coloring to its teeth and claws, while this one just again has the gray. This one has the burning patches, of course, and has a, isn't it a different color on the tail? No, it's not a different color on the tail, like the spines on the tail. But essentially, that is essentially it. The overall mold, like we're talking about a Godzilla that has a much more, would you say, bigger head, even though again it's a Vinimates, in proportion to its body. And the Heisei Godzilla didn't even have that big of ears. And to top it off, the 54 fins don't really suit the Heisei Godzilla all that well. The Heisei also had different scaling on its body. So why they're able to make these type of changes to 62 and 2000 but not 1995 is beyond me. Also, the burning patches aren't even done that well. There's like parts in the middle where you can actually see again like the little details, like the base figure, and the paint itself feels really scratchy. Like that really has not been sealed well at all. And also, don't even get me started on the spines themselves, which if you actually look really closely, you will notice paint webbing. I've checked all of my Vinimates, and this is the only one to have this. I get it. It's a tiny figure, $10. Okay. But the Funko Pops were also $10. And they have like little to no paint issues. Well, at least the ones I have. This is kind of pathetic. Like as far as the paint is concerned. Articulation, you already know it. Head can swivel and tail can swivel. But realistically, that is going to be it. It does actually glow in the dark, which is nice. But honestly, you can see why I don't like it. Just one last thing to point out is the feet. 54 had a back toe right here, while the Heisei Godzilla had more foretoes. It did have four toes, but they were all equally aligned. Not like this. So, Essentially, in my opinion, the Burning Godzilla is just a lazy cash grab. The glow-in-the-dark feature is cool, but the paint itself is awful, and the fact that they used the wrong suit design for this kind of makes this just, again, a lazy all-around figure. But thankfully, we're not ending the review on a sour note, because we have my personal favorite Vinimates figure, the Godzilla 2000. And automatically, you can probably tell why I like this thing so much, but let's just talk about it. First of all, again, base sculpt, it's the same as the 54, except it has retooled details. Yeah, and a new head sculpt, which actually looks really good. I will say its head-on shot, much like the 62, looks pretty atrocious. Like, that looks like a freaking frog. I'm sorry, but that looks like a frog. But aside from that, it actually looks really nice. The eye paint, while basic, looks pretty well, and at least it doesn't like go out to the side, which is good. The teeth are individually sculpted with some nice paint applications. I will say they're a little bit messy, but that's okay. The mouth again looks really nice and actually has some detail within it, which is again surprisingly. And you have some. Oh, we'll actually talk about the spines later. The bone white, kind of yellowish kind of claws, which is are they the same color? No, I don't think they're the same color as the teeth. The teeth are a bit more yellowish, but as you can see, they are definitely really well done. And we have like a lot of nice details here on the body, which I will say is not as like defined as the 54 is, but again, it's done really well, and I do like how this actually went the extra mile to give us something new and not just be half baked like the 1995 Godzilla. We also have like nice, a lot of nice segmenting here at the tail, which is also nice to see. And of course, we have like some more ridges of the spikes up here. And to top it off, these beautiful fins, which I've said time and time again that I didn't like how they transitioned. Honestly, over the years, I've kind of warmed up to it. And as you can see, these things are just beautiful. The reflective purple metallic paint just gives this thing a whole new oomph to it. Like a whole new flair that, honestly, again, I wish the more the Vinimates actually had. But they don't. So, I will say again, like as far as overall color appeal, this one definitely pops the most, I would say, because it's green and purple. Like, how can you not love that color combination? Anyways, for articulation, we have a head swivel, so we can actually go all the way around. So there will, actually no, not all the way around. My apologies. You can almost go all the way around. It's until you get the jaw to hit the spines back there. The spines themselves won't hit each other because there's enough distance. But for the tail, we do have a nice swivel here, which you can go all the way around with, which is also nice. And yeah, that is essentially it. And so overall, that's my review of the Vinimates Godzilla line. I honestly really like all of these figures to some degree, and even though 5 of the 6 figures are really good, I honestly have to applaud Vinimates and Diamond Select for what they did with this line, and I really wish there was more. I wish there was a Ghidorah. I wish there was a Mothra. I wish there was more versions of Godzilla, even though we have 4, 5 if you count MG, but he's like actually technically speaking a different character. He's just a robotic doppelganger. Because if they could do Rodan this well, I don't see why they couldn't do Mothra this well. Granted, it would look more like a humanoid, but still. Like, the possibilities with these ones were endless, and it's a shame that they're not being sold anymore. At least not on BBTS. I would still have to look on DST's website. But really, I think that overall, these figures are really good, especially 2000 being my favorite and 95 being my least favorite. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys liked it, definitely subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see more reviews like this, then definitely subscribe because I'm going to be reviewing a lot more of the lines that I have. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, everyone.